Meet your future husband. What? This makes absolutely no sense. Who is the Omega? There isn't one. We hope you accept. Whatever it is, my answer is no. Then the Wei family will lose everything.
Everyone believed the marriage between two alphas would fail. They were right. A penthouse, 30 floors above the storm. The lights are dim enough to call it romantic, if either man in the room still believed in that word. On the table, a marriage certificate. Beside it, and signed until now, a divorce agreement. Wei Cangyu signs without hesitation. His hand does not shake. It never does. He slides the papers across the table. Cash in. Sign it. Across from him, Zeyan doesn't reach for the pen. He only looks at the man he married. Calm. Unreadable. The same expression he wears over a dying patient, when the only thing left to control is his own face. A long silence stretches between them, the kind that used to mean something before it meant this. Darian, is this really what you want? Or is this just another way of protecting me? Cashin's hand tightens on the edge of the table. Just for a second. Long enough for a man who has learned to watch for exactly this kind of second. Cashin, don't flatter yourself, Dr. Liu. I have never needed anyone. Another silence. Rain fills it. Zeyan smiles. Not because anything about this is funny. Because he finally understands, completely, and too late, the man across from him. Darian, that's the saddest lie you've ever told. Black screen. Piano cuts to silence. 6 months earlier. Shanghai. 6 months before the rain. Before the papers. Before either man had a reason to sit across from the other and mean it. Wei Cangyu enters the boardroom the way he enters every room, like the walls already know better than to argue with him. Every executive stands. Nobody speaks. Fear has a very particular silence, and this room knows it well. An elderly board member sits a thin black folder in front of him. Board member, Chairman Wei, your grandfather left one final condition. Cashin doesn't open it. Cashin, whatever it is, my answer is no. The room freezes. Nobody in that boardroom has ever heard a request refused before it was finished being asked. The old man doesn't flinch. Board member, then the Wei family will lose everything. For the first time, Cashin looks down at the folder. Inside, a marriage contract. His expression hardens. Cashin, who is the Omega? Board member, there isn't one. Cashin raises his eyes slowly, the way a man looks up when he suspects he's about to be insulted. Cashin, what? The boardroom doors open. A man walks in wearing a white doctor's coat, hands in his pockets. Not a trace of fear in his posture. The posture of someone who has walked into rooms far more frightening than this one and lived. The old man smiles, the way men smile when they already know they've won. Board member, meet your future husband. The CEO doesn't answer the board immediately. He never gives anyone the satisfaction of watching him decide anything. Instead, he walks past the boardroom, down a private hallway lined with photographs. Decades of Wei International, generations of men who built something out of nothing and taught their sons that nothing was ever truly safe. He stops at the last photograph. His grandfather, 40 years younger, standing outside the company's first factory with 300 workers behind him, all of them smiling like the future had already been decided in their favor. You always did love making promises I'd have to keep, he says quietly, to no one. An assistant hesitates behind him. Chairman Wei, the board is waiting. Let them wait, he says without turning. They've done nothing but wait their entire careers. He looks at the photograph a moment longer. 300 families in that photograph alone. Multiply that by every year since, every plant, every office, every name on every payroll that assumes, without ever having to ask, that the roof over their heads will still be there in the morning. He has never once needed to be told what he's responsible for. He has simply always known, the way some men know their own height without needing to measure it. Tell them I'll sign it. Sir, I said I'll sign it. Don't make me say it twice. A beat. I didn't build anything. My grandfather did. The least I can do is not be the man who lost it. Across the city, in a hospital that has never once made the evening news, the doctor sits at the edge of a narrow bed, checking a chart he already knows by heart. A young girl, no older than 9, sleeps under a thin blanket, and 4-line taped carefully to the back of her small hand. A nurse lingers in the doorway. Dr. Liu, the foundation's finance office, called again. They need an answer by Friday. Tell them I heard them the first 4 times, he says, without looking up. Darian. Her voice softens, but doesn't back down. If the foundation closes, this ward closes with it. You know that better than anyone. I know exactly what closes. He looks back down at the sleeping girl. Adjust her blanket without needing to. A gesture with no audience. No reason but itself. My mother used to say the Wei family wasn't the enemy people made them out to be. That whatever happened between our families wasn't as simple as everyone wanted it to be. That was a long time ago. 14 years. He says it like he's counted every one of them. She never got to find out if she was right. I'd like to. He stands, straightens his coat. The decision already made, the way decisions are made by people who stopped needing permission from themselves a long time ago. Tell the finance office I'll take the marriage. The nurse stares at him. Just like that. I didn't say it was easy, he says, already walking. I said I'd take it. There's a difference. People forget that. This is the first time they are alone in a room together. No board members. No audience. Just 2 men and the paperwork neither of them asked for. The CEO stands by the window, arms crossed, already dressed for a war neither of them has agreed on the terms of yet. The doctor sits unbothered, reading the contract like it's any other chart. You don't have to pretend to read that, Cashin says. I'm told doctors are excellent liars when it suits them. And I'm told CEOs are excellent at mistaking silence for weakness, Darian says, not looking up. Give me a moment. I like knowing what I'm agreeing to. How reassuring. A husband who reads the fine print. Better than one who doesn't know what he's protecting. A silence follows. Not comfortable. Not yet hostile either. Something colder and more careful than either. Let's be clear about something, Dr. Liu, he says. This is not a marriage. It's a transaction with a witness list. Agreed. Darian finally looks up, calm as ever. Let's also be clear, I don't take orders. Not from board members. Not from patients' families. And certainly not from you. Good. A thin, humorless smile. I'd hate to be bored for an entire year. He stands, extending a hand. Not warm, but not unkind either. 1 year. Then we're both free. 1 year. A firm grip in return. Neither of them lets go first. It becomes, without either man quite noticing, a contest. The penthouse was never designed to hold 2 people who both refuse to be told what to do in their own home. It becomes obvious within the first hour. Darian arrives with exactly 3 boxes, all labeled in careful handwriting, and a single houseplant he sets by the window without asking whether the light there is any good. Cashin arrives with nothing. His belongings were moved in that morning by staff he never bothered to meet, and finds the plant already claiming the best window in the room. That will need to move, he says, not looking up from his phone. It's staying. Darian doesn't look up either. It's the only spot that gets morning light. That spot is where my desk goes. Then your desk can go somewhere that isn't the only good light in the apartment. A long pause. Neither of them moves toward the plant. Neither of them moves toward the desk. By the end of the first week, they have fought over the thermostat, the placement of shoes by the door, whether the television should ever be on before 9 in the morning, and most bitterly, the correct way to load a dishwasher, a disagreement that ends with both plates and pride slightly damaged. Cashin uses what he knows. His staff quietly replaced Darian's favorite chair with something more appropriate to the residents. Darian notices within the hour, has it quietly returned, and leaves a single sticky note on Cashin's desk. Nice try. Darian uses what he knows. He starts leaving diagnostic pamphlets on stress and heart health on the kitchen counter, unprompted, unexplained, impossible to ignore. Cashin throws the first 3 away. He reads the 4th one at 2 in the morning, alone, and says nothing about it the next day. Neither of them wins. That, more than anything, is what unsettles them both, because both men have spent their entire lives being the one who wins. It is nearly 2 weeks before either of them says something true. It happens by accident, the way most true things do. Cashin comes home past midnight, tie already loosened, and finds Darian still awake at the kitchen counter, a cup of tea going cold in front of him, staring at nothing in particular. Difficult shift? Cashin asks. It isn't kindness. It's closer to reconnaissance, an instinct to know what he's dealing with before it becomes his problem too. Lost a patient tonight. Darian doesn't look up. 11 years old. Something in Cashin's expression shifts, briefly, before he catches it and puts it away again. He doesn't say he's sorry. He doesn't ask if Darian is all right. Instead, he crosses the kitchen, takes the cold cup from in front of him without a word, and makes a new one, correctly, without needing to ask how Darian takes it, because he'd noticed days ago, without meaning to. He sets it down, says nothing, turns to leave. You didn't have to do that, Darian says quietly behind him. I know. A pause, his back still turned. Drink it before it's cold again. He leaves the kitchen without waiting for a response. It is the first time either of them has done something for the other without being asked, without a transaction attached, without an audience to perform for. Neither of them mentions it again. Both of them remember it. The marriage becomes public 2 days later, and neither of them is prepared for what that actually means. It isn't the announcement itself, a clean, controlled statement issued by both companies, all the right words in all the right order. It's the gala 3 nights after, the first time they're expected to stand in a room together and be looked at. Darian has never cared what a room thought of him. Cashin has never once stood in a room without knowing exactly what everyone in it thought of him. Tonight, for the first time, neither of those instincts is enough. They arrive separately and meet at the entrance, the way it was arranged, a photograph opportunity disguised as a coincidence. Cashin looks him over once, assessing, the way he assesses everything. You clean up well, Dr. Liu. Careful. That almost sounded like a compliment. It was an observation. Don't let it go to your head. Inside, the room is exactly what either of them expected and worse. Every conversation dies slightly as they pass. Every glance lingers a half-second too long. A man neither of them recognizes, old money, older opinions, doesn't bother lowering his voice as they pass. 2 alphas playing house. Whichever one finally breaks will be the interesting part. Darian's jaw tightens, almost imperceptibly. Cashin's hand finds the small of his back, not affectionate, precise, the kind of touch that says keep walking, and steers them both past without breaking stride. Ignore him, Cashin says quietly, once they're clear. He's been trying to merge with my company for 6 years and failing. This is the only leverage he has left, pretending to be offended on my behalf. I wasn't upset for me. Darian's voice is even. I was upset for you. There's a difference. Cashin doesn't answer that. He isn't sure, for the first time in longer than he can remember, what the correct response is supposed to be. Later, a photographer catches them at the edge of the room. Darian listening to an elderly woman's story about her late husband with genuine, unhurried attention. Cashin watching him do it from several feet away with an expression he doesn't manage to fully control in time. It becomes, without either of them intending it, the photograph the tabloids use the next morning. The headline calls it the most convincing performance of the year. Neither of them corrects it. Both of them know, privately, it wasn't a performance at all. On the drive home, the silence between them is different than it was a week ago. Not hostile, not quite comfortable, something still finding its shape. You didn't have to step in back there, Darian says eventually. I can handle a man like that on my own. I know you can. Cashin doesn't look over. I didn't do it for you. No. I did it because watching you handle him yourself would have taken longer, and I was tired of standing in that room. It's a lie, and they both know it's a lie, and neither of them says so. Darian almost smiles. Doesn't. Looks out the window, instead, at the city sliding past, and lets the lies sit between them like something neither of them is ready to pick up ye. The next few weeks settle into something neither of them expected. Not peace exactly, but a kind of working truce, the way 2 countries stop shooting at each other without ever quite signing anything that calls itself a treaty. They learn each other's schedules the way strangers learn a new city, badly at first, then by instinct. Darien learns Cashin doesn't sleep before reviewing every email twice. Cashin learns Darien comes home smelling faintly of antiseptic and doesn't like to be asked about his day until he's changed out of his coat. Small things start happening that neither of them names. Cashin starts leaving the good parking spot for Darien's car, the one closer to the elevator, without ever saying why. Darien starts making enough coffee for two every morning without ever asking if Cashin wants any. He simply leaves a second cup by his study door and lets it go cold if it isn't wanted. It is always wanted. One evening, Darien comes home limping slightly, favoring his left leg. A bruise darkening along his jaw. Didn't have that morning. What happened? Cashin is out of his chair before he's finished the sentence, which surprises them both. Patient's family. Didn't like what I told them. Darien waves it off, already moving toward the kitchen. Occupational hazard. Sit down. I'm a doctor. I know how to treat a bruise. Sit down. It isn't a request. And for the first time, Darien doesn't argue with the tone. He sits, mostly out of curiosity to see what happens next. What happens next is Cashin returning with a first aid kit that has clearly never been opened, reading the instructions on an ice pack like it's a hostile legal document, and pressing it carefully to Darien's jaw with a gentleness that neither of them comments on. You're doing that wrong, Darien says, though he doesn't move away. Then correct me. He does. Their hands overlap briefly on the ice pack, an accident, or close enough to one that neither of them examines it too closely. You didn't have to come running like that, Darien says quietly. I wasn't running. You were out of your chair before I finished the sentence. I was standing. There's a difference. A beat. People forget that. It's Darien's own line, thrown back at him, and something in his chest does something he doesn't have a name for yet. You're stealing my material now. I'm efficient. I recycle what works. For the first time since the papers were signed, Darien laughs, really laughs, not the polite, measured sound he uses in public. It startles them both. Cashin's expression flickers into something almost like surprise at his own success, quickly smoothed back into composure, but not quickly enough. Neither of them moves the ice pack for a long moment after it's no longer needed. If you're enjoying watching these two slowly stop being enemies, this is a good moment to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss where this goes next. That night, alone in his study, Cashin finds himself replaying the sound of that laugh instead of reading his emails twice like he always does. It is, he realizes with some irritation, the first time in longer than he can remember that his own mind has refused to do what he told it to. He does not examine why. He is not yet ready to. He does not examine why. He is not yet ready to. But sometimes the heart falls in love long before the mind is willing to admit it. Will this fragile truce blossom into love, or will everything fall apart before Cashin and Darien can face the truth? Find out in episode 2. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of Cashin and Darien's story. I'll see you in the next episode.